chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another cubed episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 412, recorded Monday, February 27th, 2023. Tonight we're talking about Alien 3, or Alien Cubed, from 1992. This one was chosen by ya boy, Miles B. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randy Z. What's up, man?
I'm an executive by day and a wild man by night.
How do, my friend? I'm excited to talk about this Alien 3 with you.
A wild man?
Please just punch.
Are you a wild man right
yeah.
now? Damn. You're
By night.
You're so wild. It's night. On the East Coast, anyway.
I know.
Let's get fucking buck wild right now.
We're going to do that. We're going to be talking about Alien 3, the wildest and most insane film imaginable.
It's so wild. So wild indeed. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy. Losing my religion stains. No celibate stains here, boys.
No celibate stain.
Nobody thought there was any danger of that.
Not once Ripley gets off the shit, boys. I'm ditching that religion, boys.
All right.
All right.
Out the door for
weird,
me.
Weird song
Brother
to celebrate
Stains
that.
is gone. Brother Stains is gone.
Has left the building. Brother Stain. No. This is my brother Stain.
Yes, that's what a boy likes.
Some good new bumps, Randy. Way to go. You're on top of it.
Whoa.
I'm on top of the world, baby. I'm a wild man.
Wild man by night. Before we get into the review, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So this episode is going to drop on March 1st, which means our February poll will have closed by the time you're listening to this. Actually the March poll, sorry. But the March poll most certainly is going to be Scream 4 as the winner, so we're going to be talking about that pretty damn soon. But that, of course, means our
Don't count your eggs before they hatch, Bob. Come on.
Bob, we've got like 3 weeks left.
I'm
There's
calling the shots.
100 years left in this month.
I'm calling the shots. I feel comfortable. That of course means at the time of you listening to this, we have a brand new poll currently posted on our Patreon website. Our April poll is currently up there, and the theme for April is weed, because 420 and stuff. Why not?
Really pulled out all the stops for the next poll. Huh?
Getting buck wild. The 3 movies for you to vote between
Like nothing
are,
I'd ever smelled before in my life.
That's true.
That's sticky icky, man. Whew. The 3 movies to vote between are Troll 2, This Is the End, and Scary Movie.
Whoa, Bob, you can't tell me how those numbers are looking yet because the poll is non-existent.
All zeros.
Let's take
Rob, use
Take a
your
guess.
soothsaying clairvoyance and tell me what's going to win, since you're so good at that.
Yeah, why don't you take a shot, Bob? What do you think? How are you feeling about this poll?
My scarevoyance. I think This Is the End is going to steamroll it. I think Troll 2 is probably going to be in second place and Scary Movie in last, if I had to guess. What do you guys think?
Okay. I don't know.
I think Scary Movie's going to take it. I think, like, with our audience is mostly people around our age, we have fondness for it, even for its sins.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
would
like
be
that's
hard to
gonna be a
count
shoo-in.
Scary Movie out like all the way. I kind of would think that would be my popular choice too, but then This Is the End. I don't know. I would have put Troll 2 last, but I don't know.
It's got a cult following for sure. But
Yeah.
we'll see in about a week, I guess, what those numbers look like.
Yeah.
Speaking of other Patreon bullshit, we got a brand new minicast dropping this Friday, March 3rd. Your boy Randeezy and myself are talking about that new found footage hotness, The Outwaters.
I have not seen that movie yet, but I did hear G-Baby shitting all over it recently. So
I like it when G-Baby...
He glass bottomed that movie.
When G-Baby gets worked up, I enjoy watching the fireworks. I'll be honest. He's a pretty chill dude.
Guts out through your asshole.
Yeah, I haven't been able... Dang.
Randy fucking went to work, dude.
I know, damn, all new bump board.
Damn. Made me shit my guts out through my asshole.
I do what I can.
So yeah, if you support us at the $10 level or above over on Patreon, you get access to a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive content. We have over 90 on there now. We add to it every month. And also, if you do sign up on Patreon, we email you an RSS feed that you can copy and paste into your podcatcher of choice. So you don't have to listen to these just on Patreon. You can listen to them on iTunes or wherever you prefer. So it's super convenient, and there's a lot of content on there. Content. I hate that shit. There's a lot of audio. There's a lot of us jibber jabbing. You can check that
There's
out.
a lot
You
of
hate content?
Content. It's just like such a generic catch-all. It could mean literally anything. Content.
Oh.
What we do is content. It's not art, so...
Oh, this Randy.
There's a lot of priceless art
Those are
on
art.
this on our on our feeds.
Let's get into this piece of shit.
Oh fuck!
Damn.
Yeah, check. See if
It's like spring cleaning.
see if Randy and I think The Outwaters is a piece of shit or not this Friday.
All right.
The last thing I have, Justin, I know you got some shit too. Let's Get Physical Media just dropped a brand new episode this past Tuesday. Mikey and myself are talking about our January pickups. So if you have any interest in collecting Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, or anything like that, check out Let's Get Physical Media anywhere you get your podcasts. We got several YouTube things, I think. Juice, what you got?
Yeah, some new YouTube content. So I had mentioned last week, it finally just dropped right before this episode, but a full new game review is out. It's been a while since I did one. I think the last one I did was like Little Nightmares Deuce, I believe. But I just did a full new gaming review on Hollow Knight. And that is a game that is like, I was really attracted to for like its kind of art style. It's very like dark and like eerie, but also like it's hand drawn, so it's like very beautiful. So I finally played through that. Been meaning to play through it for a long time and really enjoyed it. So I did like kind of a full breakdown on YouTube, and then also included like some gameplay and stuff. That's a game that's like really popular for like speed runs and stuff, just because there's like a bajillion things to like find in that game, and you can progress like any way you want. There's no like linear path. And so it can be confusing at times too. So I just kind of did how I kind of normally played through it, and just kind of like offer a little guidance for getting into the game. But yeah, so those are both on YouTube for your viewing pleasures. Randy, have you played through Hollow Knight?
What is none of your business?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I played briefly, but I'm not big on the Metroidvania thing, which is very much where the category that falls into. Side-scrolling Metroidvania in particular, for some reason, just does not, or hasn't computed for me very well. I think that if I gave it another shot, I could force my way in, but I haven't. You know, it's a bitter pill at first for me.
Yeah, the biggest thing with those games is getting into them, and that's kind of why I wanted to do that gameplay video, because when I first started Hollow Knight, like, I really, really wanted to play it, but Metroidvania games, because they're not linear, you have to like kind of know where to go to get a couple upgrades in order to progress, because there's no just like straight path, and people can get easily frustrated. And so like the first hour to hour and a half can like really be critical in like how much you can enjoy the game. So, but definitely. They're tricky.
Tricky,
So, yeah.
tricky,
Okay.
tricky,
Totally.
Cool. Is that all we got? Randy, you got anything?
Not a goddamn thing. Not a thing.
Don't touch me.
Damn.
Bob, you're on fire this week.
I know. Wow.
I love that it's the sound quality is identical, so it's hard to tell when those are bumps or just Bob making statements of fact,
just popping off.
such as
I have a daddy kink.
Ah, yes, Bob. That's well documented at this point.
I just need to
Rob,
remind
you say that all the time.
Literally all the time. I think our house is clean.
All right, good deal.
His house is clean.
Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Alien Cubed, and let's kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, Alien 3 from 1992, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 54 minutes, or like 2.5 hours if you watch the assembly cut. This was directed by David Fincher, written by Ronald Shusett, Vincent Ward, and like literally 8 other people. There's a lot of writers on this. It stars Sigourney Weaver.
I think I have a credit on there.
You probably fucking do. 1992. You were just
stains.
a semen in your dad's ball sack. Charles S. Dutton's in this. Charles Dance is in this. Paul McGann, Brian Glover, Danny Webb, some other folks. Lance Henriksen for a few minutes anyways. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. After her last encounter, Ellen Ripley crash lands on Fiorina 161, a maximum security prison. When a series of strange and deadly events occur shortly after her arrival, Ripley realizes that she's brought along an unwelcome visitor. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie?
Shit.
Had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Juice, why don't you kick us off?
I had never seen this before, so this was a first time watch for me. I watched the theatrical cut, which is what's on Disney Plus. I don't know. So, like, if I made a full list of like the Alien franchise films, this would probably be somewhere in the middle. At least I still haven't seen them all, but most of them. I think I'm missing one, maybe. And so it would probably be like somewhere in the middle. So it's one of those movies where like it's kind of hard to recommend because there's several better choices within the franchise, but also I don't think it's so bad that I would tell somebody like, oh, you really shouldn't check that out. It's really just kind of like middling for me. So like not a strong recommend, but not a strong sway either. Bob, had you ever seen this before? Have you ever seen the assembly cut, Bob?
Yes.
And would you recommend people check this out?
I'd only seen this once prior, and it was the assembly cut a few years ago. And this time around, I watched the theatrical cut because I'd never seen it before. And I don't know that I would really recommend this. Similar to you, though, I wouldn't shout from the rooftops like fucking stay away or anything. But like, I don't think I could recommend it necessarily. I think there's at least 3 other Alien movies I would recommend over this, maybe 4. But it's fine. It's a fine movie.
Okay.
Randeezy, what about you?
So I have a similar viewing experience as Juice in that this was my first time seeing this film. I have also not seen all of the Alien franchise films, but I've seen all but Alien vs. Predator, Requiem, Resurrection, and the first Prometheus. I don't remember which one was the first in that reboot line, that prequel line.
It was
Prometheus.
Prometheus, yeah.
So what was the second one that we reviewed?
The second one was Covenant.
Yeah, Alien
Covenant.
I think it's
Okay.
called Covenant.
Alien Covenant, that's right. So, like, yeah, I have a few gaps there, but I honestly, like, the reputation of this movie, that, as I understood it, was dog shit. And I was very pleasantly surprised that is not really what I received. I felt like it was a lot better than what I assumed, what I had understood to be its reputation. And I'd be curious to find out more about if that's an accurate representation of what it is. But I would lightly recommend this movie. Yeah, to me, it's I agree that it's somewhat middling, but it's, for me, in the top 3 probably. Out of, I don't know, like none of the other ones, like, I don't know. Really, it kind of goes in sequence of 2, 1, 3 for me in terms of quality, from what I'm saying. But we'll get more into the nitty gritty of that shortly.
You put Alien
recommend.
Alien?
I think I might, yeah. I oscillate a little bit. Okay, well, your stank face does nothing but solidify my feeling towards this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like a middling ass recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have a plot synopsis?
I do indeed have a plot synopsis.
Please hit me with it.
All right.
Please.
Here it goes. Shortly following the events of Aliens, an egg hatches on board ship Sulaco. Then a fire starts, causing the ship to eject an escape pod with Ripley, Hicks, Newt, and the android Bishop on board. The pod crashes on Fiorina 161, a foundry and maximum security prison staffed by 25 male inmates. They pull Ripley from the pod, but everyone else dies in the crash. An inmate's dog then gets face-hugged by an alien. Ripley is awakened by Clemens, the doctor. She asks to have an autopsy done on Newt. They find nothing, and then she asks for the bodies to be burned as she fears Newt is carrying an alien embryo, or one of the other bodies are. Spiritual leader Dylan delivers a speech as they burn the bodies. Ripley finds a damaged Bishop and reactivates him. He confirms a facehugger came to Fiorina with them. Ripley then almost gets raped by the inmates, but Dylan interferes. The now fully grown xenomorph kills several more inmates. Ripley tells the warden Andrews they need weapons, but they have none at the prison. The xenomorph kills Clemens, but strangely lets Ripley live. She runs into the cafeteria to warn the others as Andrew is pulled into the ceiling and killed. Ripley then rallies the troops, and they plan to flush the xenomorph out with fire, but it derails their plans and causes an explosion, killing more inmates. Ripley then scans herself and sees a queen embryo growing inside of her. She also finds out the Weyland-Yutani group wants to use the aliens as biological weapons. Ripley asks Dylan to kill her, and he agrees only if she helps him kill the xenomorph first. They lure the alien into the foundry, resulting in the death of every other inmate, excluding Dylan and Morse. Dylan sacrifices himself to get the xenomorph into the mold, while Morse dumps molten lead onto them. The xenomorph jumps out covered in lead while Ripley activates the sprinklers, causing the alien to explode from thermal shock. The Weyland-Yutani team arrives with Marines and a guy who looks just like Bishop, who claims he created the android. They ask her to allow them to remove the queen from her stomach. She refuses and throws herself off the walkway into the foundry, holding on to the queen embryo as it bursts from her chest. As the movie ends, Ripley's final log recording from the Nostromo plays. Roll them credits. The end of Ripley.
All right.
Or is it? Who knows?
Bob,
No.
you
but
seem
yes.
pretty negative on this movie. I didn't find it so boring like you seem to. What's up with that?
Yeah, I just...
What's up with that?
There's not a whole lot that I find intriguing about this movie. And I'm going to try and not just like endlessly compare it to Alien and Aliens, because I think that's very unfair to any movie, really. So like just taking this as a standalone movie, like it starts off with a bunch of like characters that you may or may not be familiar with that are dead. The little girl seems to have like some significance, but you don't, if you haven't seen Aliens, you don't really know. The other characters are like moderately interesting. The Dr. Clemens is like somewhat interesting. Dylan is probably the most interesting character, I think. I kind of wish we got more into him and like the religion of the inmates and stuff like that. But really, it's mostly the vast majority of this movie is like cat and mouse stuff happening with an alien that largely looks way worse than the previous two movies. And then everybody just kind of dies at the end, and I'm not sure like what the point of it all is. It seems like they're really trying to get at something, but I think the storied creation of this movie and the number of writers that were involved really like you can feel that the point is lost in the shuffle. I think there's some cool ideas, but I don't think any of it really lands for me. So I found it kind of hollow by the end of it.
I definitely do think that there's a good foundation here, and honestly, so the best part for me was actually the first hour of setting everything up. I actually thought it was set up pretty well. So the element is like this prison community, because through this franchise experience, you know, we've kind of had this experience of like in the first movie, it's kind of like everyday kind of workers. They're in space, but in this world, you know, they're like arguing about their contracts and stuff like that. And then the second one, it's based on this kind of community and then like mercenaries and stuff like that. And so it's interesting to kind of like take it to this like prison that's like isolated on this planet. Like that's an interesting idea. The religion is an interesting aspect. And so I actually enjoyed the first hour of this pretty good, but I tend to agree where the second hour, it becomes a lot of running through this kind of like maze that looks all the same. That's kind of like one of my biggest beefs is they set this idea up of this prison place, but it's all fucking brown. And like they do not do enough to distinguish like the different like locations in this prison, or just not make it so fucking brown all the time. So I was bothered by that kind of like second hour a little bit for sure.
I mean, that stuff didn't bother me so much. I agree that like it kind of like at a certain point it starts following the rubric of Home Alone of all things, where like they do like the whole like I don't know, third act starts and they start doing like a plan, and then that plan falls apart. They do other plans. Like it's just like plan after plan after a while. And that's where it kind of like, I think that's where you lose the thread on all the good like pipe work that you lay down early in the movie, like Justin's point.
Good pipe. Whoa, that's some good pipe work.
That's you gotta put some good pipe work in. I always say that.
Gotta do it.
In this house.
So I think I don't know. Like to me, it kind of devolves a little bit, but for the most part, it's I don't know. Maybe my expectations being so low and rock bottom from just like loose tangential things I've heard about this movie, maybe it helped my experience a lot, because I don't know that maybe if I was expecting this to be as good as Alien or Aliens, it's definitely going to disappoint that metric, I think.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't quite do action as well. And it doesn't quite do horror as well. And, but like some of the production is still pretty good. Like I didn't really notice, it didn't bother me that like, I didn't notice so much that everything looked so similar or whatever. Like the parts that looked similar were supposed to, like the endless corridors, like that's part of the story that's written in.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me with those sorts of things. And I also like, there's like a trash heap where she goes and finds Bishop, and there's, you know, a few different like locations that I thought were kind of cool looking. Like I didn't have a real big problem with it, but I can understand that critique, I guess.
Something this movie did that I thought was pretty neat, even though like the xenomorph largely looks kind of bad, is that I don't believe we've ever seen a chest burster pop out of anything that wasn't human. So to see it come from a dog and look a little different and move a little differently was a neat idea. And I kind of wish we had seen it happen with maybe more than just the one dog and have more than just the one xenomorph. But I like that concept. That's
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what sets them up for like a later predator alien hybrid, like all the hybrids that they start building out, which like gets into the like absurd toy manufacturer area real quick. But like the idea that they would merge with a dog and then be like quadrupedal instead of bipedal.
Yeah.
And then like things like that are like, that's interesting enough. Or that to me implies that it takes on some of the characteristics, not like maybe even personalities of the people that it bursts from. We don't really get to know that because they're so animalistic, but maybe like, you know, if they wanted to write something where it breeds with something more substantial, like something like a genius person or something, maybe it takes on some of that intelligence or something. And all of this, like, it'd be real easy to go Gremlins 2 with it. But if you do just a little bit of dabbling in that, then I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, it's one of the things, it's kind of like the same thing with the disappointment of this movie. But also I do want to praise the positive aspect too, because I feel like a lot of this movie, for me, the first hour is a lot of like, oh, that's interesting. Wow, I'm surprised. Wow, I thought this was going to be shit. That's cool. And then, but then the second half for me is a lot of like, oh, they didn't really pay that off. off. Or like, man, I wish they would have followed that through. So like in this idea, yeah, I agree that because, you know, in the first one, we really don't know what's going on, and you still don't get a big look. So I have an easier time connecting this movie to the first Alien for some reason, because you know, you're dealing with a single xenomorph, and it follows more the idea of like the kind of like space environment. I feel like it's more on track with kind of like what the first Alien was. Yeah, maybe it's kind of like trying to go back to that formula a little bit, but I wish that this Alien looks like doo-doo though.
It's rough.
It looks bad. So bad.
Well, because they CG'd the shit out of it.
They CG'd the shit out of it.
So,
in a lot of scenes anyway, not all of it, I don't think.
Apparently, the only fully CG scene is the moment where the alien head explodes. Everything else was done physically, but the way they puppeteered it was different. So it looked kind of janky in its like movement. So they tried to smooth it over, and it
clean
looks
it
like
out.
shit. But it was a
real
real
it's
thing.
gloss that we're getting with it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't do the things that like they were doing in the first movie. You know, it does seem like they're trying to go back to that tone, but this would have been the perfect space to kind of use the liminal space of like the corridors and stuff to kind of hide this monster. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But they don't. It like bursts out of the dog. It's like rolling or it's like crawling around on the ceiling. It looks so bad, unfortunately.
I think that like when it's in the dog form and it's just like kind of standing there and it's like you getting your first shot of it, that's the best it looks in the whole movie. I don't think it ever looks that good.
Probably.
I agree.
Well,
with that.
it really sucks because I thought when they brought what's his name back, the cyborg,
Bishop.
that looked really good.
Yeah,
like
I
it's
agree.
fucked up.
It was
but when he's
shockingly good.
I
thought they were going to do a cut
too.
to like a like to Lance Henriksen in like a crazy makeup, but they never did, and it sold off pretty well anyway, which is pretty.
I thought it looked really good.
That was at the time of that,
and so I was like, man, I wish the alien looked this good.
At the time they released the movie, that was like one of the most expensive animatronics ever created, or something like that. But I mean, it looks fucking dope. So even though it was
really good
on screen for like a couple minutes, but they pulled it off pretty well.
But it's kind of like not the effect, but like the moment with Bishop is so spoiled by the later revelation that his creator or whatever, I don't know, man, like having Lance Henriksen come back as a cameo role or whatever is one thing, but having him come back as like a canonical I don't know, man, it just didn't hit
that's
right.
what I'm
Just to be the stand-in for the Wayland like greed
Corp,
engine that we're already so familiar with, like I'm okay. Like they're recreating the Wayland as the villain thing, which is fine and good, and it makes sense within the confines of this story or within the confines of this franchise. But we've seen that before, and the only really truly new big element they have here is the monastic situation with these like supposedly reformed prisoners, and most they do with that is pose some like. They replace sort of like does somebody have like sort of like the thing like suspicion of your fellow man sort of thing with just like her being terrified of everybody rightfully on the ship, and like the distrust that's there is only because of their history and them saying outright that like having a woman here puts us into a terrible position and all this stuff, like, but they never, like you guys said, like that's the thing they never pay off. So
yeah,
that's the thing when they go ahead.
They say like having a woman ruins their harmony because they haven't seen a woman in years, and it's like, okay, that's interesting. So let's see like where that thought ends by the time the movie rolls, the credits start rolling. But like it doesn't really end anywhere. It's just like these guys are kind of assholes, and she like saves the world again, and that's about it. Like it's enough to give whatever fucking Tywin a little bit of an arc right before he gets like pretty shockingly killed off. I thought that he was going to go the distance like Kyle Reese did in part 2, but they kill. So like, but like really, it doesn't pay off much more beyond that. And what's the other guy's name? Charles Dutton, sort of like the leader of the Dylan.
Dylan. Well, no, like Dylan's the leader of the
church
prison monks.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he like it gives him just a little bit of pathos, but they don't do much with it. besides like he rescues. I don't know why he rescues Ripley in the end. Like sacrifice. If somebody's got to be sacrificed, she's ready to die for a moral and just reason. Like, let her be the one. Yeah, and they just don't do that.
I don't know,
because they need that last minute of bursting out of the lead, and then I guess.
So what I was thinking,
and then the Christ pose, the T pose,
that they should have done was. So she comes off and she's introduced to this church on this prison. And what I was thinking was, we've already seen the corporate interest in this alien. Right? Like, we know, like, for the past 2 movies, we have seen they want to weaponize it. You can't trust the company. Don't believe them. So I was like, I've seen that story played out. I've seen that twice now. We don't need that. And we're separated from the company. You've crash landed on this place. Where I kind of want to see the progression is you can do it a couple ways, actually, that makes the franchise kind of move along and makes it distinct, but also progressive in that you can have the alien evolve from the dog. It makes it a new kind of alien. It introduces the idea of like, oh yeah, they do have some kind of like relation with their host, and it affects how that they grow and what they become. So that's cool. And then also what I thought we were going to get is these men kind of like finding like kind of worship towards the alien. Like, I thought you were going to get a fanatic side that was like, this is the God we've been promised, or like, again, this is the perfect kind of being, and we're going to kind of like help it along. We're going to self-sacrifice ourselves to let it grow inside of us so that it becomes something new. And then like the science people, you know, kind of over here saying like, no, you know, we've got to stop it. We got to destroy it. I feel like that's a much more interesting idea and like how society deals with this alien. We've already seen people want to make money off of it, but like, what happens when it gets into a more like religious standpoint? Like, people start to worship it or you know, help it along in that way. It's like, that's a lot more interesting than I think that's where the company wants it again.
They kind of did that in Alien vs Predator, like a little bit anyways. We don't see much of it, but
I totally agree. And like, that's, I definitely thought that there would probably be a fanatical side, but more than that, I thought that there would be factioning amongst these men. And there was a little bit of that, but it really is about their resolve towards, you know, their singular cause. And that to me is like, that's missing a trick, to your point. Like, I also feel like that, like, we've seen Wayland, we've seen corporate greed as a theme. I'm okay with them bringing that back, because that is kind of, it's never not been a theme in alien movies up to this point, but it's can be a slow simmer in the background. And they kind of do that. They have it be sort of like, it creates a ticking clock, but it's still ultimately all the decisions are made around the greed of the corporation, not around their religious beliefs necessarily, which is just missing the point to me. I don't know, man.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
The devil is a motherfucking liar. So you know I ain't worried. Biatch.
Damn. Yeah, he is. One of the differences between the assembly cut and the theatrical cut. So there is no director's cut of this movie. Fincher really did not have final cut of the theatrical version, and he had literally nothing to do with the assembly cut whatsoever. They asked him if he wanted to help, and he said, "Fuck no." He said he said basically Fincher. The only way we could have a true director's cut is if he just shot a whole brand new fucking movie. So he didn't want to touch it. So that's why we're calling the longer.
Now that would be interesting.
Yeah, the longer cut is the assembly cut. One of the differences is that the alien doesn't burst out of a dog; it bursts out of an ox. Which
what?
An ox.
What is an ox doing there?
They have an ox. I don't know. I guess that's probably why they changed it, because like what the fuck? It makes sense for them to have a dog, you know, companionship or whatever. But an ox, I don't know. What
I mean, kind of, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had some kind of, if they have to grow livestock or something, it would make more. They could easily make that make some sense for me. Like it wouldn't be that hard for them to be like, we live on an isolated island, we farm or whatever. Like, that's
we
fine.
need animals more than just a dog.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, if they can get a dog, they can get any animals. So
sure. Yeah. It doesn't. That's what I was saying. It doesn't necessarily make much more sense that they've got a dog.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
It's a smaller change. Yeah. They sort of cleaned up the crash landing a little bit too. They pulled Ripley out of a nearby body of water, and she was covered in lice. And that's why they, shaved her head or whatever. And the ox was also covered in lice. There's more gore too. So like the death scene where I forget the dude's name, but he gets like chopped up by the giant spinning fan blade. They added a lot more gore in there. And then the end, I think, is probably one of the bigger changes. So there is no like queen bursting from her chest at the end. She just holds that Christ-like pose as she's falling into the lead, and it just holds on her as she like slowly gets smaller and vanishes. And that's pretty much the end of it. Overall, the story's pretty much the same. It's just it flows a little better. There's a little more like connective scenes that fill some stuff in, but the story's pretty much identically the same, no matter what cut you watch.
Do you think you said you've seen both, so you have a preference?
I haven't seen the assembly cut in a couple years, but it does seem that like everybody, like unanimously, everybody agrees that the assembly cut is the better of the two versions. But it's pretty much the same story.
It's just longer.
It's just, it's like an extra 30 minutes to help like smooth the rough edges of the theatrical cut.
So this is something I meant to do more of. So this is bad on me, but I am curious for the discussion. Do we know like kind of what Fincher's like wanted to do with this before it got cut to shit? Like, is there an original kind of like plan or something that he's mentioned, or like some original script or something that we have that like sheds light on like where this kind of deviated from Fincher's ideas? Do we know?
Dude, there's so much trivia on this movie. It's insane. I've got a lot.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about some of that in the main discussion.
I read the whole thing about it, Bob, and I'm wondering like if I'm wondering how much of it is a game of telephone. So you tell us what you know, and we'll cross-reference.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a high level, because I don't want to get too in the weeds with everything. I've got a lot of information though. So they basically had 10 writers working on this script before they ever started filming, and they spent $7 million on sets that they ended up never using because the script kept evolving. So it got to a point where they just couldn't fucking use the sets that they had already built. So it was just like flushing money down the toilet. This was Fincher's directorial debut. Before this, he did a lot of shorts and a shitload of music videos, like a ton of music videos. So he did not really have the clout that he has now. Fucking David Fincher's name rings out now. But so
I mean, he had a pretty storied career even then, but it was not as a director.
True,
not as a feature director. I should say.
But some of the different like scripts that it went through, and I think the end version takes notes from basically all of them. So there was a script that was written by a dude named Gibson, and he sort of jokingly summarizes his version of the script as "Space commies hijack alien eggs. Big problem in mall world." So there was some sort of there was some sort of Cold War like commentary happening that led to like a giant battle in a space mall at the end. So it's supposed to
I am so fucking glad that never got made. I read that and I was like, that sounds terrible. And what's interesting is it also says, I think it's the Wikipedia is what I read, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it was like apparently a lot of fans like think that's the one that should be made, which blows my fucking mind, because like, first of all, even at the time they were writing the script, the Cold War like that was so tired. It was just like the default villain of the 80s, and they were going to go into it in the late 80s into this third rung of this movie with that, and they're going to do it at a fucking space mall. Like they're just going to do
nothing about this world has ever suggested that there would be something like a space mall out there.
Yeah.
Everything about this
I assumed that
is gritty and really like
it doesn't. They don't spend a lot of time talking about. Well, you imagine this is like sort of like a Blade Runner world where if there is a mall, it looks like shit, and it's like
no one wants.
It's like fucking Demolition Man underground situation. So it shouldn't, but like the way they describe that makes it sound like an 80s mall, which is not.
That
is not appealing to me at all.
I've got like 4 more script iterations. I'll blast through real quick. There's another dude named Eric Red. And his script opened up with a team of special forces boarding the Sulaco, finding that all survivors had fallen victim to the aliens. Afterwards, it moved into a small-town U.S. city in a type of biodome, culminating in an all-out battle with the townsfolk facing hordes of alien warriors. And I watched an interview with this dude, and he was almost referencing like a Signs type thing where you got like aliens out in the cornfields and they're like, picking humans off, which sounds kind of cool. I mean, that might be interesting to see.
That scene sounds kind of cool, not the concept.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea of terrestrial alien, like xenomorphs.
Yeah,
like I just don't love like slice of life, like I don't know. They would have to really like do something different than what you expect to see in a small town situation.
Well, because what makes this franchise interesting is it's all in space, and you get a glimpse of kind of like the world's probably really shitty back home, you know? So I don't want to see corn. I'm imagining that people have to go to space to fucking mine rocks because there are no cornfields. Like, you know what I'm saying?
This wasn't on Earth, right? Like what I read, I think it said it was a biodome on Mars or some
other planet. Yeah.
So it is still space technically, but it's but like the idea that you would have like a full domestic scene with xenomorphs, that hits me the same way Jurassic World hit me.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I don't know, man.
There's another iteration written by David Twohy. He changed the setting to a prison planet, which is kind of close to what we got, which was being used for illegal experiments on the aliens for Biological Warfare Division. They then called up a dude named Weaver and gave him a $4 million salary for some reason, plus a share of the box. Sigourney Weaver. My shorthand is fucking me up. Sorry. They called up Sigourney Weaver and to get her on board with this version of the script. She was not on board until now. They were going to make her basically a footnote, and then they called her up and gave her $4 million to be in the movie, plus a share of the box office. And also, Sigourney Weaver specifically requested there be no weapons in the movie, so that's why they don't have any weapons at the prison. So
I thought that was an interesting, like, when I found that out, I was like, oh, I thought there was a narrative reason for it, because it's an interesting, like, bent to take your movie, especially right after Aliens 2, which was all about the armaments and like very into that. So like to take it the opposite direction creates a whole new, like, I don't know, it makes a whole new dynamic and challenge. Yeah.
Now, see, that aspect is interesting, as if she had like just crash landed on the planet. And she's like, well, at least I'm not with the alien. Like, it could have been one of those situations where you're with the prisoners. Oh, shit. Well, at least I'm not with the aliens. But then you find out, and that could play into the mutation idea of like, how does this thing mutate, of where like they've just been sacrificing up prisoners to find out like how this thing mutates. And like, but then I guess that would kind of undermine the whole idea that the company has dedicated so much time and effort to capturing this alien. They have a whole planet where they're just experimenting with it. It's like,
yeah,
unless it's another future thing, like she was, you know, in cryo sleep for such a long time, they actually got a hold of it and we see the results, and this is the results, like mass experimentation and like abuse and stuff. That could have been cool.
It could be cool.
Well, they could even justify it by saying like from the corpses we've developed this new technologies that we're testing. Like it doesn't necessarily have, but they're still after the live thing, the real thing. Like you can justify it 100 ways and still have it function that way. Yeah, but I don't know. I like potential there. I don't know. Again, like we have this movie that seems like it's largely focusing on a religious aspect, and it ends with a Christ pose and a self-sacrifice, but the connection isn't there. So like, I really want to fix that rather than
Rob's got one more.
No, I got two more actually. So the next version of the script kind of gets into what Brandy's getting into here. Vincent Ward came in, did another pass, and his idea was there's a planet whose interior is wooden and archaic in design, where Luddite-like monks would take refuge. The story begins with a monk who sees a star in the east, which is Ripley's escape pod, and at first believes this to be a good omen. Upon arrival, of course, Ripley Ripley with increasing suggestions of the alien presence. The monk inhabitants believe it to be some sort of religious trial for their misdemeanors, punishable by the creature that haunts them. So like that fucking makes sense, right?
That's the one. That's the one that like makes like where I was saying, if you're going to have this whole, like, you know, it's kind of weird to have this prison system and be like, oh, they're all religious and they chose to stay here. It's like, okay,
two things at once. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. If you're going to be on a prison planet, I kind of want a prison planet. If you're going to be introducing religion, I kind of want like this aspect, the monks, and they see it as like, oh, a trial or some kind of savior or something we should be, you know, worshiping or helping along. Like that's more interesting, honestly, to me. The prison's okay too, but mashing them together but not paying off either is like seems like a disservice to both ideas.
There's
I think so too.
Sketches of this like wooden planet, like the interior of what it would look like online. You can find, and it looks wild, and I can't imagine what it would fucking cost to build this thing, but it looks neat. It might have been dumb, but like that's probably the one I would want to see the most. The final version is what we kind of ended up with. So Sigourney Weaver requested that producers Walter Hill and David Giler write the final script because she believed that only they and also Ridley Scott can write Ripley effectively, the character of Ripley effectively. So they worked with a script doctor to pull basically all the previous scripts together, and we got what we got here. And a lot of these rewrites were happening like while Fincher was like trying to make his fucking movie, and they kept like changing stuff, which is incredibly frustrating and difficult. So I'm sure. So,
dude, oh my god, getting new marching orders as you're fucking making anything. It makes you want to fucking die, dude. It's the worst.
Yeah. You're on a time limit and you're on a budget and you're trying to like make your first feature.
Just to have no cohesive like connections and stuff. That's terrible.
And the first,
that like wooden world and stuff. You know what it kind of reminds me? It kind of reminds me of like Return of the Jedi or something like that, where like you got to take it to a new place, you got to give it a new environment, and
Fincher worked on that.
It just, I don't know, that makes more sense to me, especially like aesthetically. Like this one feels consistent in a way. Like I was saying, okay, we've seen like the everyday workers, we've seen the kind of military aspect, even the aspect of like terraforming, and so in the way like 3 feels consistent with the world, like, oh, we're in a prison. I don't think they do enough to make it look like special or anything, but it does feel consistent. But what's like more interesting to me is like, show me something kind of new, but that still feels like it fits in place. And like that like religious aspect, that sounds the most interesting to me.
Like, then they need a narrative pull that's going to be like, I honestly just think that it is what you described, which is just too many things happening at once. I honestly like I respect the decision on some level of being like, I think that having just a prison planet or whatever could be pretty dull because you know what to expect. We basically got that anyway. It's just got one guy who's like, if they had just had one sect of reformers and another that are kept in line that keep these like other assholes in line, and then you have the same story. And I think that like trying to infuse the religious aspect into it was a noble effort. It doesn't pay off because it confuses the message a little bit, but more than that, they just don't follow through, period.
Yeah,
like they spend more time on the cat and mouse than they do on that, which in fairness, I see how this movie ended up the way it was.
Yeah.
With the way it ended up. And it's a tragedy in some level, but yeah, like they really dodged a lot of bullets and still got hit by quite a few.
Yeah, I will say, to like give it positives, I mean, I really like the first hour. I thought that like they were setting it up really well. Like I said, the aspect of it bursting out of a dog was interesting. I thought that old Tywin Lannister was like doing a good job. I was like in the kind of dynamic there where he was like, I kind of was a prisoner, but I'm also a doctor, and so I have like this checkered past, but I'm like kind of a man of
science. He's like the most noble murderer of all time.
Yeah, and so he's kind of like, and like they're kind of hook up and stuff like that. That's fine with me. I don't know. And even like the kind of warden aspect, it's like, and like the hint of a religious thing, like the whole first hour with the acting was good. The bishop scene was good. The idea of it coming out of a dog was intriguing. And so I was on board, and really like that last hour is like the corporation comes back in the same capacity they always had. That's bad. There's like, they don't make these characters particularly distinct. And so she's like calling out people's names. I'm like, I don't know who that dude is. Yeah.
There's the one,
even the guy who lives to the end. I'm like, who the fuck is that?
There's the one like really dumb guy they call 85, I think, because that's his IQ.
Yeah.
And then there's Dylan.
He wears a ball cap, so you can tell him apart.
And then the doctor, and then anyone else is who the fuck knows, honestly.
No, yeah.
I do think.
And then the corridors all look the same, and they say it's like a maze, but it's like they spend 45 minutes running through like the same looking hallway. It's like, damn.
With a dude.
I still don't understand their plan. Like, I still understand several of their plans, because it would require me to understand the full layout of the fucking building, and I just don't, and I'm not going to.
Show us a map,
but I did
real
like
quick,
I thought it was a weird choice, although I like part of me wanted to like fanboy out because they kind of do like a point of view Sam Raimi thing in those scenes.
Yeah,
but like it seems ill-fitting for this movie and this franchise.
It bothered
to me
a lot. Like, maybe do it once and like lead into a really cool kill, but don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
They do it like 4
I like
or
that
5
it flipped
times.
around like upside down and stuff. Do that.
That's
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think you could do that once, maybe even twice, but yeah, they do it a lot. And it's like,
also too, it's hard because we don't know what the perception of an alien is, like it's got this weird dome head. And so to just have it be a view that's like
slightly
kind of blurry on the end. Yeah, it's like that looks kind of dumb.
Like the Predator, Predator point of view is fucking cool, because otherwise you would have no idea what it can see.
Well, I mean,
and that's
neat,
but even like the demons in Evil Dead are like they kind of see normally too. They're just a camera on a board. I understand also though that the reason that works is because the tone of those movies is very different.
Totally.
Totally.
I don't know. The Wind. You're the point of view from The Wind. That's fucking cool.
Whoa, this isn't the happening.
I do think that like Ripley is handled pretty well in this movie. Like, her character is still like very strong, very fucking badass. She's willing to like shoulder like humanity once again and sacrifice literally everything to like save the world, like she always has been willing to do. So like that character is written consistently, even if like the supporting cast can't begin to touch that of Alien or Aliens. So I mean, at least that's there, I think.
I agree.
I wish there were guns, though. Like,
I think they did her justice, honestly. I still, like you said, I like her character, and I even like the aspect, of the people being close to her dying. I kind of wish maybe there's a little bit more even of, Newt dying. She's already lost a daughter before. She has now lost Newt. And, that can hit like really home and like make her maybe a little like more cold or hard. But like, I liked her and maybe that's why I liked Tywin being in this movie, because it builds Ripley up. They have conversations and, and stuff like that. And so I felt like that they did do Ripley like justice. And I'm happy for that, because it's terrible to lose like a good hero to shitty writing, Yeah.
Sometimes you got to flash grief your tits. You know what I mean?
My Lord, there you go.
No, I don't know, man. I think I think I agree. Like all faults and all, the story arc that she gets is consistent with her previous point of view. I really, even though I didn't love like Lance Henriksen playing a bigger role than Bishop, another role than Bishop. Like him saying, like trying to con her, and her just being like, "Come on, don't you want to help?" or whatever he says, and she says, "No." She fucking closes the gate. I loved that, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, that's Ripley. That's good shit." And that all worked. So benefit there, but
the scene with her talking to where she like first really meets Dylan. And he's like, "You don't want to talk to me. I'm a rapist and a murderer and a piece of shit," or whatever. And she's like, "Oh, so I must make you real nervous," and sits down right in front of his ass. That's fucking Ripley. That's put anything in my ass. I'm desperate. God damn, dude. What?
Hey, it matches with the movie.
Stick furniture in my ass. Holy shit.
I'm dead.
What? Why are they all me? Why is this? You made no bumps of
Bob,
anybody
you
else.
say we can make you
craziest shit.
Bob, we can make you a supercut. I have often considered
sure
it because
you
there's a lot of
Supercut is
material.
largely you saying obscene and ridiculous things. I would say more often than any other element is you saying ridiculous shit.
I'm dead.
Prepare to laugh your guts out through your asshole.
That's
a large promise.
That's a hearty laugh, man. That's some funny shit.
Um,
There's a small little touch, like at the very beginning of this movie, I thought it was neat with the Fox, fanfare intro, and it sort of like slows down and sounds like garbled and fucked up towards the end.
Yeah.
That's a nice little
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah.
I agree. Like that seems like I don't know that they did a whole lot of that sort of like customizing of the production house logos back then. I don't remember a whole lot before this time.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I
said earlier, like, I wish there were guns in this movie, and it's not necessarily like I wish there were guns in this movie. I wish that there were weapons to be found at a maximum security prison. That would make sense, right? It's just weird that there's
even if they're locked up.
nothing.
I get that. Yeah,
something.
Well, yeah,
I
and
get
that,
that.
I mean, we've seen that
unless
before.
they threw it in the
that's-
forge, they could have a scene where they describe we threw them in the forge.
Yeah.
Just say that, then I'm happy.
Well, and that's why I feel like we need some kind of conflict amongst the people. We need some kind of character development going on. And we've seen the point, you're in a prison, you get a kind of Con Air situation going where, the prisoners get a hold of the guns and they sacrifice some of the guards to the alien, or we need something else going on here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're fucked up, lady. Stay away from us. And okay,
yeah,
yeah.
We need more human elements going on here.
Yes,
or some ridiculous shit. I don't know. It's just very at this point. What we end up getting in that last half, second or third act, whatever it is just very rote and repetitive for a long time. And there's so much space in there, and what's already not that long of a movie, at least the theatrical cut, have something in there, man. Just have one, add one scene where you have the Mists level, fractioning of the population between zealots and science-minded people or whatever, any of that, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a better story. And then have Dutton or Dylan or whatever rescue Ripley or whatever from that, rather than stupidly sacrificing himself instead of killing both aliens at the same time as she suggested and for some reason didn't do. I don't know.
Idiots.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's
just a confused little mess, unfortunately.
It is. Well, yeah, when you have so many writers like that, I mean,
it's amazing that they got
sense.
this cohesive, honestly.
It's true.
I agree.
True, yeah.
And luckily, this didn't end Fincher's career, because that man can direct the shit out of a movie, as we've all come to find.
Dude, Randy was
came
going
back
through his
swinging with
filmography.
7.
Yeah.
I
3
still
years later, 7.
I probably tonight, honestly, will go watch Mank, just because I've never heard of it. And
I'm curious
all of his other films, I'm pretty sure I've seen every single one of his films, and they're all fantastic.
Yeah.
So after this, he did 7. Amazing. Fight Club, Panic Room.
The game,
Panic
too.
Room is.
Panic Room's
I haven't seen that in a long time. Zodiac, awesome.
Yeah.
Benjamin
The
Button.
game is
I
incredible.
didn't realize
I want
he
to make
did.
sure that we.
The game is great.
Oh,
The game
which one is
fucking
the
great?
I don't know if I've
That's-
ever seen the game. Maybe I'll watch the
Dude,
game.
watch the
fuck,
game.
dude.
Okay.
Watch the game. Know nothing going in.
Oh,
please.
Michael Douglas. Okay.
Yeah, boy.
Michael Douglas and Sean Penn.
I've seen this poster. I know this poster. Okay. I'll watch the
It's-
game then.
That's a movie that you definitely don't want to know anything about in advance.
Okay, cool. Well, it hasn't been spoiled for me so far. So,
Right.
but Dragon Tattoo, honestly, for creature comforts, I've got 3 of
All
these the
Finchers,
Fincher movies to cover. Yeah, Dragon Tattoo is definitely one of them, but
Good,
yeah,
Got a new
I
one
mean,
coming this year.
it's hard to find a director who's that fucking consistent. Not just consistent, but
Good.
really
High
good.
quality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude,
The
he knows what
Killer,
he's doing.
2023.
Ooh,
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Nice. All
November.
So I
Tilda Swinton, Michael
have y'all seen
Fassbender.
Mank?
I'd never heard of it.
I haven't. No, I just looked up what it's about. It's like a fictionalized story, I guess, a biographical
black and
drama
white.
film about the writer of Citizen Kane.
Ooh.
The screenplay developer of Citizen Kane is what this says. So I don't know. I've heard people praise it, but I like the only people I've ever heard mention it were praising it. So hopefully that means that it's great and just not well known.
Yeah, Fincher's. Yeah,
he's got a good enough record to convince me to check it out for sure.
Good shit.
I've got some Fincher to watch this week. Good on me.
Anything else you guys want to mention before we rate Alien Cubed?
I don't think so.
I think I'm all set.
All right, let's do it. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? What do you think about Alien 3?
Yeah, kind of like Randy said, I was kind of coming into this not with a whole lot of expectations, but the expectations I had were kind of low. This one is not praised often. I don't hear a lot of good things about it. But I didn't really know anything else. So, going in, I was like low expectations. And then through that first hour, I was really pleasantly surprised, honestly. I was like, wow, what are they going to do to kind of fuck this film up? And then they kind of do, not to the degree I think people talk about it, but I definitely was disappointed by the end that they kind of wasted a lot of the potential that they had built up. And so there was a element of disappointment there after the kind of element of surprise and intrigue. As I said before, I mean, I think I've kind of laid it out there. There's some positives in this film that could have been good, but they really don't pay off, which is unfortunate. And really the only consistent thing I think that they set up that is well delivered is the fact that Ripley still is badass and goes out in a kind of badass way. And in some ways makes sense for the end of her character. She's lost everything. She's been battling this alien. It now comes down to the idea of it's infected you, and she's willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, killing herself to end this struggle, to end this battle. And that's great for her character. And that's the only thing that I feel like is paid off that this movie sets up. I feel like the setting was mostly kind of wasted potential. I feel like a lot of the characters and ideas of the religion and what's his name?
Dylan,
the doctor.
Dylan
too. Dylan, and then the doctor Tywin. Yeah, those were all just kind of wasted potential. I feel like we didn't ever get anything from those kind of interesting characters. And then bringing the company back just felt so kind of weak, because it was the same thing we've seen in the past 2 movies. It's just they're evil. They want the alien. We fucking know. They've always wanted that shit. We don't need to do it again. So overall, I think a 2.5 is fair for me. There's some decent action. The alien looks like doo-doo, unfortunately. But just kind of right down the middle. Not terrible, but unfortunately not great either. So yeah. Bob, out of 5, where are you gonna rate Alien Cubed?
Yeah, pretty much right down the middle, same as you, man. 2.5 for me. There's some cool ideas here, just none of them pay off. And I do want to give it a little bit of slack, knowing the messed up production history and how cohesive this movie is shocking and surprising. Damn, okay,
yeah.
I mean, David Fincher clearly is the reason any of this makes any sense. So good on him. Ripley is written well and consistent, so thank God for that. The alien looks like straight doo-doo, which is such a bummer, because in the first 2 movies all of them look so good, which is amazing. Probably the most iconic shot from this movie is where the alien is face to face with Ripley, and then realizes she's carrying a queen embryo and backs up and doesn't kill her. And that scene, Fox told Fincher to fucking cut it, not to shoot it or whatever. He told him to fuck off and did it anyways. And that's the scene of the scene.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So good on him.
Which scene? sorry.
This scene where the alien, it's always shown in like stills too, where it's like right by her face and it's kind of like drooling down and it doesn't leave her. Yeah.
If there's anything that's everlasting about this movie, it's that image.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we covered it all pretty much. There's some cool ideas here, but it just doesn't pan out. 2.5 as well, right down the middle. Randu, how about you?
I think we're pretty aligned on this one. I in particular am aligning with the thought that it just kind of does not pay itself off in a way that even if they had paid off Wayland a little bit better, it would have maybe been a better movie. Even if it was like strictly a rehash of the first one and just, really hammered home the same stories, it would have been repetitive, but not nearly as confused as it ended up being, maybe. Anyway, your critiques all hold true for me, I think, for the most part, and your call outs for positivity, I think, are well earned too. Like, Ripley is still great. She's still like self-sacrificial and all business and cool as a cucumber and all those things you want her to be. I didn't like the way they unceremoniously just wrote out those other characters, really. I don't like that they brought back Lance Henriksen and tried to make some... I don't even know what was the point of that. I don't understand, except to just have him back in the studio. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like I just think that it seems like its reputation is well earned as being just a product of development hell, above all. And the fact that it stands up as well as it does is fucking incredible, considering all of the challenges it faced. So for me, that puts it into a very positive territory, if not a glowing territory. So I'll give it a 3 flat.
Okay.
All right. 3 from Randeezy is going to put our aggregate at a 2.6, repeating, of course. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment. Actually, Miles sent in an email.
I got you, Miles.
Come on, Bob.
I got you, Miles.
Your boy Miles.
With me in the studio is the Dark Lord Blood.
Tight. Again, this movie was chosen by Miles. Thank you so much, Miles, for showing us some love, supporting us on Patreon, and picking this week's flick. Miles sent an email with his own thoughts. Juice, you got that?
I do. Here we go. I was going to call last night and leave a voicemail, but much like the great poet Afro Mang said, some things came up. Thanks for reviewing my pick. Not that you had a choice since I paid for it, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Alien is my favorite horror franchise by far, so I was really excited to hear your thoughts on this one since it's a controversial film. I'm not going to make any crazy claims like this is the best movie in the franchise. It's not. I think 1 and 2 are near perfect, and this was never going to be as good as those. And given the production history, it was never going to be anything but a mess. And while I think this movie is extremely flawed, I like to highlight its strengths. I think David Fincher does a great job directing, and the movie looks great visually outside some of the poor creature effects. I also love what they did with Ripley's character. People complain about Newton Hicks being killed off screen, but honestly, I love that choice. This movie is extremely bleak and has a really oppressive, nihilistic tone throughout. Whoa, Fincher knows all about that. Throughout, and I think it's a great contrast to the feel-good romp that is Aliens. Feel good? I don't know about that. It reminds us, my little commentary here, Miles. It reminds us that this is a horror franchise.
On your commentary.
Yeah,
wow.
After the summer blockbuster that James Cameron made. Some people wanted Aliens Part Deuce, but that movie was always going to suck. You can't recreate that without being James Cameron, and I'm sure even another movie by James Cameron wouldn't live up to it without feeling stale. So yeah, not a perfect movie at all, as I'm sure you guys will point out, but I think it makes for a good conversation. It's still way better than 90% of horror sequels. When there's this much talent involved, I can't in good conscience say that this is a bad film, but when certain other franchises have later entries where the main villain fist fights Busta Rhymes. Okay, so until Wayland Yutani gets brought out by by
Gets bought out by Danger
gets bought out by Dangertainment in part 9. I say okay. 3 1/5 stars from me. Okay, and 1/5. Damn. Hashtag hard with soju. That is all Miles has to say.
Yeah, we ain't buying that one, buddy. Thanks, Miles. We appreciate it.
Miles.
Yeah, I think hopefully you're pleased with our take on this, because I think we're largely on the same page. You sound a little more glowing than we were, but
yeah,
I think we see the same.
However, I will say there's a universe where Aliens 1, 2, and 3 are directed by fucking James Cameron, David Fincher, and Ridley Scott. Fucking, I do that. Ridley Scott. And they're all each bangers. Like, they're all live up to those directors. That would be the fucking ultimate
trilogy
horror franchise trilogy.
There's also a universe. There's also a universe where fucking we have basically Red Dawn with xenomorphs in a mall in space, directed by Rennie Harlan.
Yeah.
So thank your lucky.
There's some
fucking
variations there. Yeah. But still, the potential of that and like the little bit of missed potential hurts my soul just a little bit, because that would be nuts. That would be nuts to have that. Trilogy.
Honestly, we came pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Almost. Oh well.
Yeah.
What could have been.
Yeah.
I'd watch the Dangertainment version of Alien Cubed any day.
Dangertainment.
I'd watch the shit out of that. LL Cool J tells the alien, "You killed my bird," and fucks him up. Yeah.
How about nice day, says the xenomorphs.
The little mouth eats the bird, I'd watch that.
Yeah, I could see that. Like a frog tongue.
Thanks again, Miles, for picking this week's flick. Now let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment. See what the critics and users think about Alien Cubed.
Now do it. Okay.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment, in which I'm going to have these folks guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for Alien 3 on RottenTomatoes.com. That's both critics and users. We're going to start, as we usually do, with the critics. And I'm going to start with Bob today. There are 63 reviews on the critics side of things. Bob, what percentage of those 63 reviews do you imagine are positive?
I don't think it's going to be too high. Critics, I'll go with a 50. Give me a 50.
50 flat?
Yeah, flat.
All right. 50 flat for Bob. Juice, how about you? Where are you sitting on this one?
This is going to be tough, because I think it is going to be somewhere around that like middling score. I just don't know if I should go positive or negative. So I'm going to be a little pessimistic and go the negative route and say 45.
45. All right. Let's see. Do a little math.
Oh, you're a magic twanger, Froggy.
Bob's going to take this one, and it is a squeaker. 48%.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. No.
That's a hell skeet.
No.
Justin's face is melting. I don't know if you guys are on behind the scenes or not, but he's turning into an old candle right now.
Jabba the
Hutt. Let's move over to our audience score. There are 250,000 plus ratings on the audience score, so a significantly higher proportion. We'll start with Juice this time. Where do you think that those 250,000 plus audience members fall on this?
This is tough, because that's a lot.
It is a lot.
I'll keep it within the same range, but say that the audience will like it a little bit more and go with a 56.
56. All right. Bob, what about you? You going to defend your championship here or what?
I think that's a pretty good thought. Numbers that high is going to drive it up. I think this movie definitely has its stands for sure. What was Juice? What did you pick?
56.
56. I'm going to go a little higher, I think. with a 60, please.
A 60. All right. Math. Juice is going to take this one.
Oh!
It's a 46. We hit lower.
Damn.
We hit lower on the audience score. Yeah.
Damn.
So a tough break for the audience in this one, I guess. The critics' consensus reads as follows: Alien 3 takes admirable risks with franchise mythology, but far too few pay off, and a thinly scripted sequel whose stylish visuals aren't enough to enliven a lack of genuine thrills. I think that's semi on base.
Yeah.
Not entirely.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if they took admirable risks with the franchise mythology. Like, what risk was taken?
Killing everybody that
mythology.
survived in the monks.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's a good point. Well, killing the survivors from the last one, I would say call that a risk. Okay, that's true. I don't know.
I think when you say like, I got a hell yeet, that's pretty fair, you know. So
totally.
But nobody says that.
Nay. Bringing it back.
Finally, a bump that's not me. Nay.
Now let's read a negative review and see if it's got any humor to it. God willing.
Please,
here's
God.
one. Dull and depressing. Alien 3 has its moments, but they're few and far between. Not the worst movie ever made by any means, but also not a very exciting one to watch. Too grounded.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
God damn
Be
it.
more extreme in your
Come on. I want the extreme reviewers. I want the Armand Whites times 10.
Rotten Tomatoes X.
My shit here.
Sharknado gave me a boner.
At that level.
Nice. Speaking of G, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Shouts outs.
Yeah, true. All right, folks. Well, I don't think we're going to get any real winners in the
Nothing to
comedy.
see here, folks.
Comedy in the comedy section of things. Yeah.
The meaty comedy.
What the fuck
We
is
all
happening?
speak
I'm having
English.
I have mini strokes every episode. I'm pretty sure.
Tight. All right.
In this segment and my pain.
I do have some more trivia, so let's get into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
All the
Bobby
trivia.
got some more trivia, huh?
More. Good Lord.
Give it to me.
Oh, I'm going to give it to you. First time director David Fincher disowned the film, stating in an interview with The Guardian, I had to work on it for 2 years, got fired off it 3 times, and I had to fight for every single thing. No one hated it more than me to this day. No one hates it more than me. He cited.
Sounds like Randy over there.
He does.
Does it?
Yes.
He said
no one hates this podcast more than me.
He said there was constant studio interference during production. He actually walked out when the studio rejected his initial cut and ordered extensive reshoots. He was not involved in the final cut, but his initial rough cut later became the basis for the assembly cut, which is what we can all watch today.
That's even like that. Even calling it the assembly cut is kind of hilariously shitty.
Yeah, they asked him to comment on the assembly cut, and he said he had nothing to say because to this day he has never seen it. He's done. He is done.
Man, they did our boy dirty, I guess.
Yeah.
Damn.
Making the convicts bald-headed due to a lice problem was Fincher's idea. When he told Sigourney Weaver during their first meeting, she immediately thought it was a great and bold idea. When Fincher asked how she felt about shaving her head for the role, she jokingly replied, "It's fine with me as long as I get my money." Pay me.
Well, damn.
The original budget was $45 million. With Weaver's fee of $5.5 million. The budget soon spiraled with first Rennie Harlan and then the Vincent Ward, both leaving the project before novice filmmaker David Finch came on board, of course. Extensive last-minute reshoots, yada, yada. The budget pushed past $65 million by the end of it. So an extra $20 million. No big deal.
That's just poor management.
Oh, for sure. The little crane that lifts the escape pod out of the water is apparently a miniature built using the cannibalized parts from a Star Wars X-Wing fighter model kit.
Okay.
For the nerd,
Wow.
the nerd eye out there, check that out.
I decided that I'm lonely.
God damn. On the set at Pinewood Studios, a giant lead foundry took 12 weeks to construct and put the production way behind. Even with 6-day weeks and 14-hour days, the crew were unable to keep up with the schedule. 12 fucking weeks to build that set.
Dude, gotta build that
Jesus,
lead
man.
foundry. Gotta do
Gotta do it.
I mean, any set on the level that's going to even remotely match the first two in scope is going to take that long. It's incredible that they got it that quick.
After a lengthy and complicated shoot, Fincher spent a year editing the movie while filming additional footage. The studio rejected everything and wanted a shorter movie. Apparently, to be fair though, like his final cut, the first version of the final cut he submitted was 3 hours long, which is fairly long. But to reject everything is fucking, you're an asshat. This is the last bit I have here. Fincher was excited to work with director of photography Jordan Cronenworth, who had collaborated with Ridley Scott on Alien and Blade Runner. However, Cronenworth was suffering from Parkinson's disease, which started to affect his work, despite being assisted by his son, Jeff. And then he later passed away in 1996.
Dude.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
That's a bummer. I like to end things on a very low note, y'all. So
yeah, no shame.
There you go. That is all the trivia I have for Alien Cubed.
All right.
Let's talk Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
So, Cooter's character type in a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is there anyone developed enough in this film to be considered a cooter?
That's a great way of framing that question.
I mean, like all the dudes definitely hit points, but I don't know if we know
if
enough
you just
about
wrapped
it.
But it's
up
all
like the prisoners together, you could maybe.
I mean, the them trying to rape her is absolutely like undeniable. But everything else that happens, it reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Homer is trying out the chili and he breaks out a special spoon, and they say he carved it himself out of a better spoon. It's just, it's like you're just telling us. It's not showing; it's telling. You're telling us that these are dangerous men. The only instance we get of that is just the one thing, which is admittedly pretty horrific.
I would say so. They tease the other guy about having a low IQ and like just treat him kind of like shit. So I would say between like the rape attempt, the mocking of that one guy, and
I mean, I think obviously sexual deviance for sure. I would say patheticness in doing that act, and then also picking on the dude that's real dumb is fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
And then like arrogance. I think they're all pretty fucking arrogant too, because when she gets there, they're like, fuck you, like we're badass, we murder people, you don't want to fuck around with us, like beating their chest in this way.
I
don't know. And they look like shit, and they all need a shower.
But they're also like actively trying to distance her from them.
True.
Because they're committed to their celibacy, I guess, which is admirable if kind of a shitty thing done. Okay, it's not admirable for these rapists to become celibate by choice. Not admirable in Juice's
They're not
book.
all just rapists, okay?
Okay, well, just the 5 or 6 of them that we see or hear talk about their rapist attempts.
I guess we could excuse Dylan from this because he does like jump in and help her out, and he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie too, and like he seems.
But they all sacrifice themselves in the end.
Some, not all. Some of them just die. But like,
well,
they do, knowing that they are going to get killed by Wayland. That's the only.
Yeah, there's no like
coward
betrayer or anything. Nobody like.
They intimate at that, but then they never do it really.
No, yeah.
The guy who's most like that is the final survivor.
Yeah,
of
Dylan does
basically
that speech. You don't want to die standing or on your knees or whatever the fuck he says. He's like, they're all like, "Fuck yeah, let's fucking do it." Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're
all
choice.
Cooter lights, I guess. But we don't fucking know.
I guess so. Yeah.
I think it's the lack of development, because I think that any one of these guys could definitely be your Cooter. If any of these guys were played by Richard Brake, it would be over. But they're not. So
your old
Cooter.
Richard Brake, man, he holds the record. I think.
Old broken
so
dick.
far. What?
The man himself.
What?
I don't know. Richard, Dick Brake, broken dick. But I don't know. Stick with me, guys. Come on.
Bob, you're making some leaps.
I want to throw up.
Yeah. I don't know. Chalk them all up to, I don't know. We don't fucking know enough about them because this movie's half baked as fuck, I guess.
Yep.
I think it's a Cooter. It's a Cooter watch, not a Cooter warning in this one. I think we're. I think we're. I don't think we're going to lock anybody up, but maybe there's some people put on a watch list.
High alert for sure. All right.
The rapist stuff is kind of actually, just call anybody in that rape scene.
Oh yeah,
fuck them.
I feel comfortable with that for sure. Lock them up. All the people that we can't remember their fucking names. Lock them up. Did they have names? Who knows? All right, let's kick our feet up, let our hair down, chill the fuck out, talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randeezy, what you been watching?
Really not very much. I think that I'm gonna have a couple of repeats and a couple of new things. I've been still watching Poker Face, the Natasha Lyonne, Ryan Johnson, Columbo style murder mystery show. It's very good. Like, I'm really digging the wave of murder mystery types, like saucy detective led shows or films and whatever that have been coming back out since Knives Out kind of broke that seal. And especially because it's Ryan Johnson, because I just like that man's work, and I know that's a divisive statement to some, but I like it. What can I say? I finished up Minish Cap. It's a very fun game. I don't know what else to say about that, but it's a very fun game. It's not earth shattering by any means. It's not groundbreaking, but it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. The new things that I've watched The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original, the 70s edition, which I enjoyed, and I can see why it was a big action thing, like a heavy hitter in the action scene at the time in the 70s. There's a lot of stuff that, hits different in the year 2023. The way they, the interpersonal social stuff going on is not, it wouldn't fly by today's standards. And I'm happy to be rid of it personally, but taking it as the era that it was birthed in, it's a good action movie. I love Robert Shaw is such a good actor. And I didn't think Walter Matthau, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything but grumpy old men and shit like that. So it was interesting to see him take a more lead role. So I enjoyed it overall. Not my favorite thing, not the least favorite thing. And then the other thing I've been watching or just started watching, I've seen episode 1 of 3 of the new Netflix true crime documentary, The Murdaugh Murders, A Southern Scandal, which is an ongoing and like currently developing true crime thing. I don't know that they're going to have more episodes of this. I think this is really just like a background on everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that on episode 3, they're going to be like, we'll see what happens, sort of thing. I don't think they're going to do anything more with it, but it's pretty fucking, I don't know, man. It's very bias confirming in some ways where, this is, man, these are the people you really are afraid that you kind of know are out there, but you never get to a really close inspection of because they're rarely ever put under the scrutiny that they deserve. So that's kind of where this movie or this story is for me right now. I don't know the details beyond one particular incident and the general family dynamic around this Murdaugh family. but they're starting to get into the real grit of it with episode 2. It looks like, so I'm excited to continue with it. And really, that's all I've been watching. Nothing else new.
Okay,
Right on. Juice, what you been watching?
been watching a few things. So I rewatched The Walking Dead season 1. I finished that, and that was okay. I watched Chernobyl again from 2019. I think that's like my third watch through, and it's good. It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
That shit
How's
is
it hitting
like
you in the wake of Ohio.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, part of that, like that kind of shit is legit. It made me think about our discussion of Threads and the kind of like, I think the kind of reputation that surrounds Threads is what I feel when I watch Chernobyl. That legit is like some of the like most scariest shit I have ever seen and considered. Like it really scares me. Like I'm like, that's terrible. And then Ohio right now. So that's not great.
No.
I watched a new film that came out called Swallowed, and I'm pretty sure Rachel, who we had on recently from the Zombie Girls, did an interview recently with the director of that film.
I think you're right.
So you could check that out. That was pretty good. That has some like body horror. That also was another film that kind of just like really bothered me with some of the things that it's like doing, like the concepts that are going on in that. I really have this like the things that make me squirm are like medical things sometimes, like that are going on, like real things that could happen, and I'm like, ooh, this is like freaking me out. Some body horror going on in there, and pretty solid. I'd recommend maybe people check that out if you can stomach it.
We saw that at the Overlook Festival, didn't we, Bob?
Yeah, we did.
That's one of the Overlook.
Oh, really?
Ones.
Okay.
We talked about it on our Overlook wrap-up episode last year. And it's also got
I like that one, man.
The gentleman from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Mark
Pattinson.
I didn't want to spoil it, but
Just
he
Patton.
is in there. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah.
Well, no, it's okay. Well, I didn't want to say
He's an actor in this film.
Honestly, I didn't want to say even too much about the what kind of made me squirm is because I felt this movie like was a pretty wild ride. Like each like kind of beat of it as it changes, it kind of like took me by surprise, and I didn't really want to kind of spoil that ride for anybody.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, you did a good job at dodging it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has any clue what's coming if they're watching.
No, yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize that it had I think it's just now getting released or something.
Release,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but cool. So I'm glad you guys got to see it too. Swallowed. I finally got to see The Whale. Hilarious, really fun movie. I like that one a lot.
Real knee slapper.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was
So
sad.
plump, so right.
I don't know how I feel like. It's weird because it's weird because it's Aronofsky. So when I'm like considering it, I'm like, he's got darker films. He's got more violent films. He's got like more bleaker films. So like in some ways it's kind of like one of his more positive.
It is.
Yeah.
Which is
For
weird
him,
to say.
it's not as pitch black as it could be.
That's the thing, considering the director and everything kind of surrounding that, it's weird to consider it because you're like, yeah, this is really sad and depressing. But then you're like, well, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
I really did love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie, and I like Aronofsky a whole lot. But I feel like that movie's a little overhyped.
It might be. It might be. But still good. I
understand why, though. It's a Brendan Fraser love fest.
He's had the beginning of his little renaissance here. Yeah, so
right.
He does
so I get it, but at the same time, he does. I just don't like the movie as a whole. To me, is like it's good, but it's not.
It might be a little bit too much at this point. Yeah. And then finally, I watched a film that my boy G Baby recommended me. It's called Under the Silver Lake. This was a complete blind spot for me, but this is from the director who did It Follows.
Yeah.
And this was a wild movie. Honestly, it kind of, in a little bit, reminded me of kind of like Mulholland Drive, like an updated modern version Mulholland Drive, because it's wild. It's kind of like this mystery, this kind of suburban LA mystery, but it is, you cannot, I was like watching it the whole time being like, it's very unique. It's very, very unique and hard to predict and impossible to predict. And it's a very unique film. Andrew Garfield is the lead in this.
I see
pretty
Topher's
wild.
in it.
Topher Grace is in it. Yeah. Topher Grace is another one of those, kind of like my Elijah Wood. I think I dislike Topher Grace even more than Elijah Wood. Something about those skinny little swirly guys. Oh, something's going on.
I like a boy with meat on his bones.
Yeah, something about
asshole.
Topher Grace
Touch me.
bothers me as well, in the same kind of ways as Elijah Wood. But yeah, a pretty good movie. Honestly, it's been a couple days since I watched it, and I'm still like pondering on it. I'm like, that was a wild ass movie. But yeah, it gave me like hard Mulholland Drive vibes for sure. So yeah, check that out if that sounds interesting to you. I would recommend people check it out. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's all I've been watching. Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
I cannot remember if I mentioned the new Ant-Man movie last week or not, but Quantumania.
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
Well,
no, actually, I think you might have. And I think that you kind of began and ended at "It is doo-doo," something along those
lines. It's
lines.
a doo-doo caca movie. I didn't like it.
Oh, damn. Okay.
It's just real long and nothing really seems to matter. It's just real boring to me, anyways.
Yeah, it's getting really bad reviews.
Yeah, I didn't care for it.
The well is drying.
I could not wait for it to be over. To be honest.
Damn, that sucks.
So that was that for me. I also revisited Slumber Party Massacre Deuce. Yabos Die Tonight. Heard
Bob.
that. They're shouts outs to our friends over at A Cut Above. They're covering that this week, and we just covered the first movie. I hadn't seen part 2 in a long fucking time, so I threw that on. Watched it with Mikey and Alice, and it's like so fucking goofy and like fun. It's definitely one of those movies it's best served to watch like with people.
Isn't Mikey on that episode?
Yeah, I believe he's going to be the guest of honor.
Oh, okay.
On that review.
They're probably recording right now, actually.
Probably, yeah. The Driller Killer with like the fucking guitar is so iconic. His goofy ass like singing and dancing. It's just like real like lighthearted and fucking goofy.
Yeah.
And like it's just a fucking ridiculous sequel. It's if you like the first one at all, I would say check out part 2 if you haven't. It's wild. It's a wild ride. I also revisited Bubba Hotep. Scream Factory just put that out on 4K. Hadn't seen that in a while. Bruce Campbell playing an old ass Elvis impersonator in a retirement home, and there's a mummy that comes to town and like fucks up the
like a cowboy
facility.
mummy.
Yeah, cowboy mummy. Yeah.
As they come.
It's the story itself is fucking wild. Weird fucking story.
Wow.
Bruce Campbell is the horniest old Elvis impersonator you've ever seen in your life, which is fucking
makes sense. Cracks
me up. It's a real low budget for sure. But I enjoy the shit out of it. It's just real goofy and light, and it's a weird, just quirky story. I dig it. Good shit. I recommend it. If Bruce Campbell is, if you're down for Bruce Campbell, you'll probably get a kick out of it. And finally, The Last of Us, going strong. I got one episode to catch up on, but the one from last week was definitely like a bit of a cliffhanger, and I think I've been enjoying the ride quite a bit. So go.
They just
HBO.
got one more week left, right? Isn't it supposed to just be 8 episodes?
I don't know, honestly. That's a good question.
I think so.
Yeah, so almost done, huh?
I think next week is the last episode. We'll have to do a mini cast on that one.
We should. Yeah, we should do that. We will do that. You know what we should do? Do a mini cast on The Last of Us.
You know what we should do? More.
Always more. Always more. That's it for me. That's what I've been watching this week. Let's go and get into the last segment of the show, which is, of course, our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We do have one voicemail this week. We're hearing from our boy Chris. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Hey, Straight Chillin' crew, this is Chris from Louisiana, a.k.a. Supreme Leader Vladimir Putin. I had left a voicemail a couple months ago, and then I guess it got all choppy. I switched cell phone providers recently to Optimum, and it's really terrible service, so there's dead zones all over the cesspool of the city. Anyways, I forgot what I was calling about when the audio ended up not being good. I hope this is going through, that it's fine. Anyways, I just got done listening to the Slumber Party Massacre episode, and then I know that at the end of the episode, Alien 3 was discussed, and it will be the subject of next week's episode. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it for the episode when you guys are watching it and reviewing it and stuff. I don't particularly remember it too much. I knew I was excited about it because Alien 2 was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I didn't know David Fincher at the time. He's become probably one of my favorite film directors of all time. But I read a book maybe almost a decade or 2 decades ago called Rebels of the Backlot. It was about 6 young filmmakers and kind of stories about their start. I know that a big problem with Alien 3 was that studio meddling. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Fincher couldn't do what he wanted to do. That was detailed in the book pretty good. But one of my favorite stories in that book was after Alien 3 when he made Fight Club for Fox Films. Part of the deal was that he didn't have to show dailies because of the problems that Alien 3 had. And so when he was making Fight Club, Fox was real nervous because it was a really expensive movie. It was over budget pretty quickly after they started shooting it. President was really nervous because he wasn't getting footage, of the day's shoots. So finally, when it was finished and David let them know that it was done, he scheduled a private screening for the executives and the president of Fox. And in the book, it detailed that when the movie was over, the president of Fox stood up and just started throwing a fit and said, "I can't fucking sell this. You're going to ruin us." And then I don't think, I could be wrong, but I think that he hasn't worked with Fox since then, considering the problems that he had with Alien 3 and then the problems that he had with Fox for the making of Fight Club. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's definitely going to inspire me to give it a rewatch. I haven't watched it since it first came out, so I remember being mildly disappointed, but yeah, who knows? And I think there's a director's cut now also, which I'm sure you guys are going to talk about. So I might have to track that down. All right. Well, thanks for putting on an awesome show. Have a good one. Bye.
It's interesting to think about, that kind of stuff because, I just covered Fight Club recently with our boy Matt on Creature Comforts on YouTube. And we, it's funny to look back now. We're like, yeah, that so perfectly kind of like encapsulated that time period of what like the kind of bubbling of like social things going on at the time. And it's this weird little time capsule now, like how out of touch some people can be, like, I can't sell this. No one's going to want to watch this. This is too bleak. This is not. It's like sometimes, man, it's just these old ass farts just don't know what the fuck is going on. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, classic film.
Yeah. And he had 7 in the bag, in between Alien 3 and Fight Club. So,
and the game. Right.
And the game. Sure. Yeah. And
like those, I don't know, man. Like, I think that like, yeah, it is crazy, but it's one of those things where like you put in the time to become that high level person, you've probably been around for long enough to where your tastes don't necessarily hold up to scrutiny, and you have to start like branching out.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to like take that risk, man, I understand though, it's millions and millions of dollars. So I mean,
yeah.
But at the same time,
you're
man,
going
if
to
you can't sell that, it's an action movie. It's an action movie from a very by that point a successful director. So
with Brad Pitt,
like I don't know. I think if you can't sell that,
if you can't sell Brad Pitt and in the '90s fucking Ed Norton, then you are a dumbass.
Then you are a dumb ass.
You can eat my shit.
You old piece of shit.
Look at my feet, you piece of shit. Well, yeah, thanks for calling, Chris. Yeah, came through very clear this time. Hopefully you dig Alien 3 upon your rewatch. That sounds like a pretty dope book, honestly. Good for you. Reading. Look at that.
Good for reading.
Good for reading. Again, if you guys are listening, want to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Gentlemen, do you have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
Oh, boy.
Wait, what's our movie next week? I always try to base around our movie.
Next week, we are talking about the winner of the March poll, which looks to be Scream 4.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Scream franchise. So, I don't know, and we've got a new one coming out in 2 weeks, right?
6 Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Who do you think the killer's going to be? Why don't you
No, let's not do that because spoilers are out there already. Too.
You can know that for a fact.
My God, yeah.
That is, somebody let it out of the bag already, and I don't want to
let the shit out of the flaming bag.
Oh, God.
Yes. Assholes.
Well, fuck.
Just tell us about your like Aliens, like Alien 3. What would you have done to fix this film? Like, what is there a version of the script that existed that you prefer, and why? And if not, what would you like? What's your ideal version of how Alien 3 is my question.
Also, what's your favorite Scream sequel? If you want to go the Scream route, tell us your favorite and why. We want to know.
Bob, we're doing something already, okay?
What's your favorite scary movie?
No. What an original question. Also, tell us how much money you paid for one of those Scream popcorn buckets secondhand off eBay.
Oh, my Lord.
How much
what is
money
with the
did you burn?
popcorn bucket market? The expendable income that people are willing to put down for popcorn buckets is too damn high in my opinion.
Also, too, a couple thing about the popcorn buckets.
Okay.
They're not being sold at the theater, so you can't use it at the theater.
No, well, they were. They sold out because for some.
But they weren't going to be. They were not going to be delivered until August.
No. Hang on.
6 months after the movie comes out.
Hang on. They were sold at the theater. They released the popcorn buckets like a month before the movie came out for some reason, so they got bought up. And there is still a demand for them, and now they're letting you order them online, and you're not going to get them till August. But they're not going to sell them in theaters anymore since they've sold their inventory, apparently. So, like, that's
but you can't use it at the movie theater?
Apparently, if you bring it, they won't put fucking popcorn in it, which is dumb.
What?
I don't know, man.
What to watch? This is gonna be like the worst fucking Scream movie. This is gonna be like the worst fucking. Everybody's gonna have Scream popcorn buckets, and it's gonna be like the most doo-doo piece of shit film that ever.
We're witnessing the Disney adulting of horror as we sit here. That is literally the popcorn bucket is a Disney adult thing.
It is a Disney thing.
Collectors. So like. That's where this is coming from, and it upsets me that it's infiltrating horror.
Well, I mean, theaters used to do shit like, not necessarily popcorn buckets, but, merch and shit you could buy. They used to do that all the time in the 90s, I feel like. It's been a long time since we've seen anything like it. I think it's interesting they're doing shit like that for Scream 6. I assume...
There's a secondary market for these fucking tchotchkes in advance of them ever being made. That's pretty repulsive, in my opinion.
No, I mean they're made.
As a minimalist, I'm disgusted.
I have disgust in my soul. I know. Well, that's a secondary market. Like the fact that before they're price gouging around,
they exist. People have them in their hands right now. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Then yeah, sure. But whatever. But like, Yeah, they're not. The movie's not out yet. A lot of people aren't going to get their popcorn buckets until after the movie, and no matter if you have it now or later, you're never going to use it for its intended purpose. So
which is dumb.
What a circle jerk this all is. Like,
I mean, I guess you could just buy popcorn and then dump it in the bucket yourself. What are they going to kick you out? Like, no, get the fuck out.
Oh, we also forgot to plug the new Straight Chillin' popcorn bucket. So
it's just our wide open mouth.
You know what we should do?
You just pull popcorn out.
Design a fucking popcorn bucket.
We can get a secondary designer,
Randy. Of our assholes and just shove popcorn.
Actually, that's a good way for us. We are now hiring a graphic designer to help us work on.
If you just put anything in my ass, I'm desperate. Even popcorn. The Straight Chilling asshole popcorn bucket. You can eat popcorn out of our asses 8 days a week if you want.
We need to churn out like 100 different items of merch this year. So we are now hiring designers. And then send in your application.
We'll just say that we sold out, and then we'll
hire a designer, please.
We'll sell them all second.
You're acting like you're taking my job. I am more than happy to delegate.
Randeezy. Get your Straight Chilling popcorn buckets on eBay right now for $300 a pop. You won't regret it. Eat popcorn out of Randeezy's asshole every night.
Wait till they hit the secondary market. You're getting a steal,
butter.
My friend.
Extra butter on that peacorn.
The sloppy secondary market? I don't want anything to do with it.
That peacorn's gonna have some chocolate on it, whether you put M&Ms on top or not. Let me tell you.
Whoa. Wow.
That's
Devil made me do it, did he?
Call in 904-638-3231. Let us know how much money you would pay for a cast of our assholes you could eat popcorn out of, please.
Let us know, please.
The butt corn is flowing. That's it for us this week. Like I said, we're talking about the winner of the March poll, which does seem to be Scream 4. So slam your eyeballs into Scream 4. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Instagram and the tweets and everything. If you want to join,
over it.
If you want to join our Slack channel,
find it at the club.
we at the club, taking our shirts off at the club. Find us on Slack if you want to join the daily.
You can fight us at Slack.
Join Slack.
Come fight
enunciate,
us.
Please. If you want to join us on Slack,
fight us.
You can fuck off, assholes. No,
we're big Venture fans, and we're going to start a fight club.
Hit us up on one of our social media outlets. Say you want to join Slack, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. It's a really wonderful community of people. We talk about obviously the movie of the week, but also just TV shows, video games, life, our family, our pets. You know what's going on. We trade recipes. It's great. It's a wonderful group of people.
I give a lot of advice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Justin is
life coach Stain.
He tells you how to live your life.
Advice is how to live a better life. 1, sell all your Blu-rays.
Sure. 2, invest in casts of my
not to be construed as legitimate advice for entertainment purposes only.
Absolutely. That's gonna do it for us this week here at Straight Chilling. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Oh, you're a magic twanger, Froggy.